get back to the main room. I think we're probably all back now. So thank you everybody for participating in that. I joined one of the rooms and I know that it was nice to talk with folks there. Did anybody have anything they wanted to share from their breakout room?
I can jump in and say that in our breakout room, several of us expressed an interest in meeting back again and having some follow-up discussion, collaboration on using Power BI to build different types of dashboards, maybe some that are more focused in specific areas and internal dashboards at that. So we plan to get back together and continue to build on these conversations. So thanks.
That's great. Yeah, that's awesome. I can see how that could be really helpful. Anybody else have anything they wanted to share?
Well, I think one key takeaway from our conversation in our breakout room was that some of the levels of granular detail, for instance, like looking at a concentration within a major, are going to be tricky because the data as we currently get it is based on zip codes. And so if it doesn't have a distinct zip code, it's not actually easily filterable right now. And so I think that was helpful to sort of talk through, because we want to be able to answer those questions, but that we've realized, I think, means that there is going to need to be some additional data set or way of filtering them to get to that level, because zip code just isn't going to get you all the way where you want to go. And so I think that was really helpful thinking about future development.
Definitely. Yeah, that's definitely limitations to the data that we and the campuses that everybody has. So.
Well, one of the things that came up in our breakout session, obviously, since the campuses have their own dashboards, the benefit, though, of having the system dashboards where you can contextualize your data compared to the other campuses. And we talked about, for example, if you're creating a SAC-COC self-study, being able to look at how your campus is situated in the systems data would be very helpful as well. So.
Yeah, that's a great point. That is not something I would have thought of either. So good feedback to have, something to know. Anyone else?
Yeah, a couple of people in our group talked about the benefits of outcome dashboards and being able to see where our students go and their earnings after they leave.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's, I don't, maybe you talked about it, but just for everybody's knowledge, that is something that we've definitely been talking about and are sort of in the beginning stages of working on and hopeful about. So that would be excellent. Anyone else want to share? And also we can just sort of roll right into sort of open question and answers. If you have questions for me, Jimmy, or Jake, any of the BI team, please feel free to drop them in the chat if you would like, or I don't know if we said that people can just go ahead and unmute themselves, or whatever you're comfortable with, then please feel free to ask away also.
What iteration of the dashboards are we on for enrollment? Say, for example, Jimmy, how many versions did we create and then improve upon, improve upon, improve upon?
I counted 30. That's over the course of about 10 months, 9-10 months, something like that. Some of those were more significant than others. Some of those were just like basic visual things that we changed. But yeah, I think when they did the HEDW presentation, I counted about 30 that I considered significant changes.
A lot of work.
Kind of along that vein, I guess I was wondering if you could speak to since we are kind of in version 1 of most of them, and there's some that are about to roll out, when you guys think as a team about what's next, like what are some of the key goals for V2 of the dashboard suite? What are some things that you know that are coming down the pipe that we plan to improve on and expand?
Yeah, so first of all, definitely open to feedback on that. There's a feedback form on the website, and then, I mean, you can always just email us too. If you have ideas of things that you would like to see in that, in version 2 of some of the dashboards. But right now, there's definitely some in progress, especially for enrollment, because that was sort of one of the first ones, and ones that we sort of, even with version 1, we were like, okay, while building version 1, we know what's coming in version 2. And I also just realized that, like, we talked about 30 versions, and now I'm saying version 1. To be clear, I mean, like, version 1 of the published version, like those 30 versions happened pre-published. So they were like version 0.1 and 0.2. So, so for the second published version, we're really looking at expanding the data that's on there. So right now it's limited to fall 14-day data, which is what a lot of the campuses report. But for example, like THEC, Tennessee Higher Education Commission, reports end of term data. So adding end of term data and maybe spring data there, expanding that would probably be, it's going to be the heaviest lift for version 2. And then we did already sort of release some minor like color updates, things like that will get changed. Other things are escaping me. Jimmy, Jake, Nick, are there other things that you can think of that we know are coming in version 2 of some of the existing dashboards?
I know for enrollment, we talked about adding some drill down capabilities. So being able to just like drill straight through the data to like a more granular, deeper view. That's the big one. I'm actually looking at the enrollment version request list right now, and that's the big one that's on there right now, in addition to the end of term for enrollment, at least.
Here's a question kind of in the chat. I think, for instance, would number of employees working in a county, is that already available on the UT Impacts web dashboard, or is that something that could be on there?
So right now, I think it's based on home location, not work location. I see Jake nodding, so I feel more confident in that answer.
Yeah, so this question is coming from the perspective of, there are locations where UT employees work regarding extension and ag research that might not be home county. Okay.
Yeah, that would be a good addition for us, I think.
Okay.
Are there any other questions or anything anybody wanted to discuss?
Sure, I have a question real quick. I noticed most of the dashboards that were presented today were online public on the service. I know that y'all have a report server as well. Do you use that, and how do you use that?
So our report server, we have historically, and we use it for some sort of internal, more technical things right now. We don't have a lot, our team at least doesn't have a lot of like Power BI reports available there, but we've definitely had conversations about displaying information that maybe shouldn't be available to the public, right? Data.tennessee.edu, everything's out there for everyone. And there are definitely things, of course, that as employees of the university, we would all like to see. For example, we've talked about like drop fail withdrawal rates from courses. Like maybe we don't necessarily want that to be public information, but it's a really helpful information to have. And so we've definitely talked about having a place to put those, and those would likely end up on the report server for anything where we want you to log in and be a university employee to see the data. So it doesn't exist right now, but definitely something we've talked about, and I think we'll probably work toward.
Could you explain to me a little more about what a report server is? Is that suggesting that you could take data and put it into a report form, such like some of the different softwares are report writers? Is that, are we talking about the same thing?
So we're talking specifically about what for us is reportview.tennessee.edu. Anybody with a UT like NetID can technically log in, but you have to be permissioned specifically to look at any of the reports. So reports there are either built usually in SSRS report builder or in Power BI. And then I mean, the server itself does have the ability, I've like uploaded PDFs or Excel files as documentation in there also. I'm not sure if it honestly supports some of the other different report types that you might use, but yeah, when we talk about the report server for us, we specifically mean that site and the things living on it. And if you are somebody who might need a space like that, I know that there are some departments completely external to ours that use that for their own reporting. Feel free to shoot us an email if you think that's something that you might be interested in or need or would like to learn more about.
And what was that website that you suggested?
So the report server is at reportview.tennessee.edu. It's really, yeah, if you're not already permissioned for anything, I don't even know if the folders will show up there. It should let you log in just because you have a net ID though. And then,
Okay, great, thank you.
yeah. Are there any other questions before we wrap up?
Just one more, a technical question. You have all of these different dashboards and you talked a lot about data validation. And in our breakout session, Jimmy mentioned that the general process is you update data in desktop, you publish it to the service and you publish it to web. So with that, just to be sure I'm very clear, what about when you start expanding your dashboards? You do not have like a centralized validated data model that you've published, correct? So when you go and you build a report, you're not linking your data source as not a Power BI data model hosted in the service?
So there is.
Or do you have
BI.
redundancies between data models?
Yeah, so there is a Power BI data model that's powering each one of these, but they're all separate. So they sort of have to separately be validated. And then we will have to go as we add data to those models and therefore the dashboards, we'll have to just validate the new data that's coming in mostly, really. Does that answer your question?
It does, yes.
Okay. Jimmy, would you add anything to that?
No, just that kind of we tried to keep in mind that we wanted to create almost like a golden data set for each one of these subjects. So like there is a data set for enrollment that anything relating to enrollment will touch. So it's that single source of truth that will come from. That's what gets updated. But yeah, we tried to do that for each of the subjects that we were working on for the dashboard suite.
If we don't have any more questions, I just wanted to thank you all again for being here. I know that Ashley dropped the link to the site. You can find our contact information there. Thank you, Ashley. And I will hand it over to Brian to wrap things up for us.
Thank you, Rachel. And thank you all for joining us today and participating in this great discussion about the IE Teams dashboard suite. I want to especially thank today's presenters, Rachel Barashko, Jake Hagenow, and Jimmy Wittenbarger. I particularly enjoyed seeing the evolution of the various dashboard reporting methods and dashboard iterations. I feel it touches on our summit's theme of leveraging data for continuous improvement. Our hope is that this dashboard suite serves as a primary resource for accessing information for our UT constituents across the state. I also hope you'll be joining us for one or both of our upcoming sessions this week. Tomorrow, Katie Jones, the IE Teams data visualization specialist, will be sharing her work in data storytelling. Thursday, the team's assessment coordinator, Ashley Ludwig, will be leading a panel discussion about utilizing qualitative data with representatives from institutional effectiveness, student life, and assessment from across the system. If you would like to register for one of the remaining sessions, you can do so on the Data Analytics Summit website. And I believe Ashley's dropped that link in the chat for you. If we weren't able to get to your questions today, or if you want to get in touch with any of these week's presenters, The link to our website where you can find everyone's contact is in the chat for you as well. Finally, next week, you'll be invited to share your feedback on the summit, so please keep an eye out for a follow-up survey and an email from our team. The survey will also be your opportunity to let us know if you'd like to be included in any other networking opportunities. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.